Hello and welcome to S5. This is my fifth sequential circuit video. In this one, we're going to be talking about a gumball machine that is one hot encoded and also can deal with a held signal from the user. So first we'll start off with the problem statement. And I'll just read it off to you. It says, design a gumball. Actually, I can just bring it up on the screen here. It says, design and build a gumball machine controller that only accepts quarters and dispenses a gumball of a random color. Once 75 cents has been deposited, assume that a sensor is already in place that sends a high signal every time 1/4 is deposited. And we're just going to have that be represented by X. And then use a mealy model with JK flip-flops in one hot encoding that is able to handle a held signal. So that means that 1/4 only gets counted one time, even if the signal is held high for multiple clock cycles. So yeah. That's the problem, and we can get right into how we solved it. So let's see. Okay, so we can go over the state diagram. So I was given one, but I actually have the completed one here. This is a little bit chicken scratch, but work with me. So basically, this represents all of the different states that the machine could possibly be in, and it deals with the one hot encoding and the held signal all in this diagram here. So one hot encoding just means that for every state, there's only one active bit. So for 6 states, you need 6 different bits. For 8 states, you need 8 different bits. Et cetera, et cetera. So in this one, we start with 0B, which is 1, and then 25A is 2. And then this one is, 4? And so on and so forth. And so that's what one hot encoding is. And then the held signal is the difference between these B's and these A's. So it goes A, B, A, B, A, B. And so basically when the state is in B mode, that means that nothing is going on, that the previous token was counted and it's waiting for the next token in the gumball machine. So say that we're at 0, that means that the machine has 0 cents in it, and then if we go here, it just means okay, they just put in 25 cents, but since we're counting for a held signal, what this does is that this will transfer over to this when 1 is when a coin is entered, a quarter rather, and then if we keep inputting a quarter on every clock cycle, we're just going to keep going back to this state until we're no longer putting in a quarter. And it's not that we're putting in a bunch of different quarters over and over again, which I guess in theory that could happen, but in real life that's not going to happen. Because of the speed of the human, they just can't do it. But in this case, we're just putting in a quarter, and it's going for multiple clock cycles, which represents, say you put in a quarter in a machine, it takes a second for the quarter to go through into the machine, and so presumably it holds down a latch or something, and that latch is held down for multiple clock cycles. And so we don't want to have them put in a quarter and then all of a sudden have $50 of credit. So we want to make sure that we only count the quarter, or effectively, this isn't actually exactly how it works, but basically, we only count the quarter after it's gone in and left the machine, or passed through the lever that counts it and is completely passed through. And so that's what this does. And so it says, okay, well, if we're just going to keep putting in a quarter every single time, we're just going to keep going back to this state, and then once the quarter is through, now we're going to go back to the base state and say, okay, well, now we're awaiting another coin. And so when we're awaiting another coin, it's say, okay, well, that coin was counted, and if they don't put in a coin every single clock cycle, we're just going to keep saying, okay, well, they have 25 cents worth of credit, they have 25 cents worth of credit, and then once they put in another coin, it's going to say, okay, is that coin through, is that coin through, is that coin through, okay, it's through, okay, now we have 50 cents of credit. And now we're going to go back. Okay, they haven't put in a coin. Okay, they haven't put in a coin. And then once they put in that 75 cents, which is what this represents, we're going to give them their gumball. But what's a little bit weird about this graph, or this state diagram, I guess, is that we don't have like it's a Mealy model, right? So we don't have a state for 75 cents. So we go back to 0. But we want to make sure that that coin isn't then counted all the way to 25 cents. Because we're going from 50 and then it resets to 0. And then so we have to have an intermediate state for 0 as well. And then we go back to 0. So that's the state diagram. Let me put that over here, and then I can get on to the next step. So the next step is the next state table, which was fortunately given to us, and we can just show that here. So with one-hot encoding, since every single state has its own like bit, and it's just like one bit. Well, let me put it this way. Since we need to represent all of our states with 6 bits, we need 6 different flip-flops. And those flip-flops are represented by Q here. So we have 0 through 5. So that makes the next state table a little bit complicated. But on the other hand, what that does for us is that it makes the equations very, very simple. I'm not going to go over the table here. I can just show it to you. But in looking at the equations now, let's see here. Yeah, so we don't even need to like make Karnaugh maps or derive the equations really. All this is, and I think this is best understood through looking at the state diagram, is that okay? So in a JK flip flop, when J is 1, that means that we're going into set mode, and when K is 1, that means we're going into reset mode. And so, and we're not using like, how do I put it? We're not using like toggle mode or anything in this one, so we don't have to worry about that or like the no change stuff. So for that, we just have to worry about like the set and reset mode. And so with coming up with the equations, well, we can look at this and we can say, okay, well, this keeps going back in on itself over and over again, and then it goes to when a coin is entered, then we go to this 25A. And this 25A is represented by J1, so this is J0, J1, or not just J, it's JK flip-flop, so flip-flop 0, flip-flop 1, so on and so forth. And so say that we want, say we're talking about, well, it's easier to start here because we don't want to start, I'll just start here. So say we're talking about flip-flop 1, and we want to find out, okay, well, what's the formula for J1 and K1? Well, J1 is active when we're turning Q from 0 to 1, or Q1 from 0 to 1, and then K1 is active when we're turning Q1 from 1 to 0. And we're always doing one or the other. Unless, like, obviously nothing is happening. Because we just continually like put it in set mode over and over again for, like, per clock cycle if nothing's actually happening. So it's fine. We don't have to use like no change mode or anything. So okay. Let's see here. It's very easy to lose track of your mind here, but so say that we're in we're at 25A, and we're in that state where we're just waiting for the coin to go all the way through. So what that is that right now J1 is active, or Q1 is active. Let me rephrase that. Right now Q1 is active, and X is also active. And so, because that's what this represents here. If we're just like waiting for the coin to go through, Q1 is active and X is active. But then when X goes to 0, all of a sudden we move on to the next one. And so if we're going to go from, and when we go on to the next one, K1 is going to become active and J1 is going to go dark. Become 0, that's what that means. So say that we're trying to get the equation for K1. Well, it's whenever Q1 is active, and x is 0. Because when that happens, okay, well now K1 is going to set this to 0, and then we're going to also set this J1 or J2 to high. And that logic can be carried on through all these other ones. So if we look at the actual like circuit here, we were talking about K1, and we're saying, okay, well whenever Q1 is high and whenever X is low, as in the coin is no longer being like recognized, it's already gone through the machine. Okay, then we're gonna turn flip-flop 1 down to low, so for all of the states, all of the held signal states are going to work like that, and then all of the we're waiting for the next coin to go in states will work a little bit differently. So say that K2, for example, or sorry, not K2, flip-flop 2 is a we're waiting for the next coin state, and so well the J2 is just whenever the previous one went low, that's what that is, and that's when that will be active. And then the K2 is whenever, let's see here. We're going to go to the next one whenever they put in a coin, which is currently Q2 is active because this J2 is active. And then when they put in a coin, okay, now we're going to go to the next state. And then that will work like the held signal ones, and then J4 will work like the we're waiting for the next coin states. So that's that. And then, let's see here. Okay, so I'll just show you the completed circuit now. So what state are we in? We're not actually in any state right now. So that's why we have this little signal here. We want to force this first flip-flop on, because otherwise we couldn't like have the circuit work. So now it's on. And then say, okay, we're in the 0th state, so we're waiting for a coin. We're waiting for a coin. Let's actually turn on the clock to show that the held signal thing works. So we can make it like 32, and then we can have auto tick enabled. So it's going like super fast, right? But it's not doing anything yet. But say that we put in a coin. Boom. We just put in a coin. So now Q1 is high. It's in that intermediate state. The coin is not. It's still being. It's being held right now. So it's not gone through yet. So then we go low. Boom. It goes on to the next state. Now we're waiting for another coin. Boom. We put in a coin. It's going through. Boom. Now we're waiting for another coin. Boom, we put in the coin, and, well, let's see here. This is going to, like, flicker for half a second, I guess. Maybe I can make this slightly slower so that we can see it. Okay, so just watch this right here. I'm going to flick this off. So then it's waiting for that next coin. Oh, it already did it. Okay, so I'll have to, okay. So we're going to put in this next coin. It's going to flash 1. Okay, maybe it's going too fast. Let me actually turn that off, and we can do it manually. Okay, so we're waiting for a coin. We put one in. We take it out. We put it in. Take it out. Oh, it just flashed 1. Okay. Sheesh. Okay. It goes through, put in another one. Okay. Okay, so right when we put this coin in, it's going to go to 1. Did I miss it? There it is. Okay. So now we've turned it on, and it's given us the gumball. I don't know why that was so hard to figure out, but we got it. So that's the completed circuit. It'd be a lot easier to see the output if we were actually given a gumball, but you know, we're only trying to give them one gumball, so it flashes for 1 clock cycle, and then it dispenses that gumball. Presumably, it would be attached to some sort of trigger, and then it would work. So we're going to define one-hot encoding here, and I explained it a little bit earlier, but I guess I can just kind of quickly go over it again. It's just when every single state is represented by um, like there's a bit for every single state, and every single state will only have one active bit representing it. And the advantages of this are that, like you saw, we can derive those equations literally in our head. It's really, really easy. But a drawback of that is like, okay, well, now we have to have 6 different flip-flops. You have to have a flip-flop for every single state. And when you account for like propagation delay and this kind of thing, well, it can make for a pretty inefficient circuit. And a lot of times we're concerned about that. So it just kind of depends what you're making, and if it matters or not. And so, I mean, and the next question here is discuss why managing held input signals needs to be a consideration for real designs. Show how this consideration impacted the state diagram in the final circuit. Well, if we want to account for held signals, well, obviously look at here. Like we have 3 additional states to account for the different held signals. It completely changed what our it basically doubles the complexity of the entire machine. Because if we weren't accounting for held signal, well, we'd only have 3 states. One for 0 cents, one for 25 cents, and one for 50 cents. But so it'll double the complexity of the entire system. But sometimes we need that for a gumball machine. For a gumball machine, for example, like we don't want to count his quarter 40 times. Unless we have a way to make sure that the coin, maybe it's their ultra slow clock cycles or something, and the person knows that or whatever. So it's very practical to have held input signals because there are plenty of examples in real life where we need to count every input only one time. And so that's it. Thank you for watching this S5. This one was on a gumball machine that is one hot encoded and accounts for held signal. So thank you very much, and y'all have a great rest of your day. Thank you.